Good evening. Our Rancho Public School Board of Education meeting for Monday, November 14th is now called to order. We will start tonight's meeting with a presentation of the colors from
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ready, cut. Right, face. Forward, march. Ready, cut. Left face. Ready.
Thank you so much. That was our Rio Rancho High School Marine Corps JROTC Color Guard, and we appreciate them being here. Can we go ahead and have a roll call, Kim?
Yes, you may. President Galbraith,
Present.
Vice President Morgan,
Present.
Secretary Scott, maybe joining us online, as I understand it. Board Member Tripp,
Present.
Board Member Tyler.
Present.
You have a quorum 4-0.
Okay, thank you so much, Kim. All right, hopefully Board Member Scott can get in on our, I might have, Kim, we might need to text her the link. I don't know if you can do that easily. I might be able to do it up here. I would like to welcome everyone out to our meeting tonight. We especially like to welcome our color guard who's here and those who are representing our Rio Rancho High School Marine Corps. So we're grateful to have you. Tonight, we'll start with some introductory comments by the Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Visu Cleveland.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for being here. And again, we're at this very special time of year, thankful for all of the many things that we have in our lives in our school district. And I'm most thankful for the wonderful staff we have who work hard to do the very best for our students every day. Okay. As you saw this evening, our colors were presented by the Rio Rancho High School Marine Corps Junior ROTC, and we are delighted to have them in the audience. I want to tell you just a very brief story about this particular unit that you're going to hear has won some really nice recognitions. When we were getting ready to build Rio Rancho High School, we looked at a junior ROTC program, wanted one very badly for the new high school. And so we reached out and we were told it was not possible. There were no new units being funded and approved, and it just would not happen in the immediate future. And so, as was often the case in this community, we had a group of individuals who said, nope, and we're not going to accept that. So we had individuals who got on an airplane at their expense and went to Washington, D.C. and spent close to a week there. And Danny Harper's here and she's shaking her head because she knows that happened. And called in every marker they could find. We had a board member at the time who had lived and worked in Washington, who had some contacts there. Our delegation reached out to help us get this unit. And so after about a week, they came home in hand with the Marine Corps Junior ROTC for Rio Rancho High School. And it was a really exciting day. And it has been an incredible organization from day one, has done an outstanding job. And we are very grateful that we have had that unit since the very beginning of Rio Rancho High School, now I think 26 years ago. So there's an interesting history behind this particular unit for our community, and we're grateful to have all of you here this evening. Next slide. A Naval Honor Program includes the top 10 schools in our region, and we are part of Region 4. This region includes 12 states and about 65 Marine Corps Junior ROTC units. Captain Freddie Morales, who is retired, is the instructor. And he's going to share some additional information with the board. Before he does that, Dr. Ryan Kettler, the principal, will also speak on behalf of Rio Rancho High School in this organization. And then Captain Morales and the others will introduce the student cadets and any others that are in attendance for this agenda item. So welcome to all of you. We will have a couple of reports this evening. As you know, we have a very strong athletic program in this district. We're very proud of that. I think we are now over 100 state championships in this short history of the school district. So many of our programs this year have experienced a high level of success. I think we had 3 state championships a couple weekends ago, and we have others that we think are probably coming. But more importantly, the program serves incredible need of our students and contributes so much to the overall experience that students have in high school. So the first departmental presentation is going to be presented by Bruce Carver, who is, of course, our Executive Director of Athletics. And he'll be talking about things about the culture that Rio Rancho Athletics attempts to establish, challenges and successes with staffing, some of the things that are going on in terms of engagement and innovation, safety and wellness and operations. And of course, you see those a lot because those are the 4 components of our strategic plan that the board has approved. And then last, to certainly share with you some of the challenges that the department is facing. Our second report is elementary curriculum instruction, and Joy Morales, who is our Executive Director of Elementary CNI, will be providing an overview for the Elementary and Curriculum Instruction Department. And she also is going to share information on the following: staffing, which is obviously absolutely critical to success in terms of teaching and learning; engagement and innovation, and particularly she's going to talk about 2 programs that you've heard a lot about. One is Amplify Core Knowledge and Language Arts and Eureka Math, as well as what is going on in terms of technology and teaching and learning. She too will talk about safety and wellness, operational excellence, and commitment to continuous improvement. This department has a long history of really being committed to continuous improvement, always knowing that we can do better and always working to achieve that goal. And then closing out with opportunities for improvement and plans for the future for the department. We've done a lot with Hall of Honor. Even very recently, we celebrated the last class and thought, boy, this was going to be a tough class to beat. But we have another great class this year. And so Danny Harper, who is the chair of the Hall of Honor Committee, and Beth Pendergrass, Chief Communications Strategy and Engagement Officer, will describe the process and present the candidates for this year's class. And once again, there are some outstanding candidates for your consideration. And then we have an RFP for the CTE, Automotive Building Design Services. This was discussed in the special board meeting that was held last week on November 10th, and the board will be asked to approve the award. Mike Baker, Chief Operations Officer, will introduce the item and provide some new additional information that we did not have last week. And then Michael Madrid, our Purchasing Director, and Melanie Archibald, Executive Director of Facilities, will also be available to answer any questions that you may have about this item. And just as a reminder, this agreement, again, is a cooperative effort between RRPS and CNM and our partnership with them. We have a second RFP for design services for Cyber Academy and Independence. You will be asked to review and consider approval of design services for these 2 campuses in order to speed up the process for new facilities, pending the passage of the bond issue in 2023. We'll be talking about the pros and cons of whether we move ahead with that now before that bond is actually approved. But waiting until the bond is approved will put this project several years on down the road. So we really need to find out, how aggressively the board wants to pursue these two projects. And again, Michael Madrid and Melanie Archibald will be presenting their recommendation for this service. And they also will talk about some procedural differences and how this timeline might play out for these facilities, including things like bond anticipation notes. And then we have a board policy that we are proposing some changes. This will be a first reading. So no action can be taken by the board at this meeting. And those proposed changes will be presented by Mike Chavez, our Executive Director of Human Resources. And that's all I have. If you have any comments or questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
Okay, thank you. Any questions on this end? Any questions? Noreen, any questions?
No question. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Cleveland. We appreciate it. Okay, for our next item, item E will be to approve the prioritized agenda and proposed time allegations.
I'd like to make a motion, Madam President, to approve the prioritized agenda and proposed time allocations with the change of moving business item B to after the commendations section.
Okay, so that will be moving.
This is Noreen Scott. I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second by Noreen Scott. And all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries 5-0. Okay, thank you. We'll now move into our public comment. We have one public comment that came over our form. We also have one public comment that's here in the boardroom. First, I will go ahead and just read the public comment that came through our form. So for our public comment that came through our form, it was from Linda Thompson. And she had concerns over the virtual learning day on election day, and would like to see our schools open on that day, and that it can be a hardship for families to have our schools closed on that election day. And if anyone would like to give public comment through our form, you are always welcome to do so by going to our board page at the district webpage. Okay. And then for our other one, so we have our public comment that's here. So for those who are here to give public comment, and I will hand it over in just a moment, you will have 3 minutes to give that public comment. All those who are giving public comment, they have to have signed up before our meeting started tonight. And we really, really appreciate, we don't get a lot of public comment in person these days. And so it's very nice to have public comment. And so Kim will go ahead and start a timer here in just a moment as we have that. So our public comment that is coming in is Ivan Torres, and he's from Cleveland High School. And before you get started, just note that we can't respond back to you unless it's on our agenda. Okay, thank you.
Time starts now. Firstly, I would like to thank you all for giving me the opportunity to speak here and give you public comment. I'll be firstly giving you public comment on your first report, athletics. Concerning athletics, I've seen that in the board's agenda and report today, we're going to see an allocations that total $110,096. For the Cleveland High School improvement facilities. While being a student and a senior at Cleveland High School through my entirety of my high school career, and who's also participated in both track and field and other numerous activities, I would like to mention that the $60,000 apported for video scoreboard renovations or replacements is a misuse of funds. This use of funds can better be put to other circumstances and other needs in general. The next thing is track and asphalt cleanup. This track and asphalt cleanup is projected to cost $35,943 in total. That also, as a sprinter and a long distance runner that has ran on that track for over 4 years in total, finds it completely unnecessary, seeing that the track is of a sustainable quality. Now, this is a shed for cross country, something I've been personally involved in for over 4 years, or 4 years in total. And that is projected to cost $4,248. This, we already have one. I don't see any need to, buy a new one. And then the next one is a Connex container for track as well. And I really could only see that for the pole vaulting, but that's already kept in the gym. So that would be $9,905. These are expenses that could be easily avoided by the board. And in relation to the track and asphalt cleanup, if the board would consider having school clubs like Key Club or other school clubs, if that's the availability of it, to clean up it instead of having to shell out $35,000. Now, the things we don't have at Cleveland, the things we absolutely do need. We need soap in the bathrooms. There is not soap in the bathrooms. And I'm not sure if many of you know this, but it has been brought to the attention of various administrators at our school. And yet it still stands unaddressed. During the height of the COVID-19 pandemic, we still did not have soaps in the bathroom, a vital component of a safe and sanitary school district, something we did not have. Next, chairs at Cleveland High School, many of which are broken. These chairs are a vital necessity for us to even operate as students at Cleveland High School. And the third item that we need absolutely vitally at Cleveland High School and high schools across the district is space for teachers. We see that teacher spacing has been an overflowing issue here today, and we will continue to see that into the future because teacher spacing and many of my teachers have had to float from classroom to classroom because there is simply not enough space. So I asked the board to consider this in the nomination or the first report we have from athletics and try to find some other ways to use this public money in a more beneficial way to impact students. Because at least in my experience in Cleveland High School, I find that the most vital instruments of my education are the ones least funded. And the ones that are related to athletics are the ones most well funded. Now, as I am in sports, I do find it important. But one thing I do find even more important is my education. Thank you.
That was exactly 3 minutes.
That was good. Thank you. Thank you so much for being here. It's always nice to have people here in the boardroom to give public comments. So thank you so much. Okay, so we will move now to our business item B for just this part of it, which is, let me go over to it. So it's to consider the approval of Hall of Honor Committee recommendation for candidates for induction in 2023. And this will be presented by Beth Pendergrass, our Chief Communications Strategy and Engagement Officer, along with Danny Harper, our Chair of Hall of Honor Committee. Did I do that wrong?
Yeah, I had made the.
Oh, I did do that wrong.
Do it after commendation.
You're right. I just popped ahead. So that's my fault. So hold that note. We're going to go into commendations. So I apologize. So for our commendations, will be our designation of the Rio Rancho High School Marine Corps Junior Reserve Officers Training Corps, our MCJROTC, as Naval Honor School. So Dr. Ryan Kettler, we'd like to have you come up and present this. We'd also like to go ahead and invite, I believe Captain Morales is going to be doing some stuff too. And so any who are with him who would also like to come up, you are welcome to come up.
Dr. Cleveland, President Galbraith, Vice President Morgan, and distinguished members of the Board of Education. First of all, I'd like to thank you for having us this evening and for recognizing the outstanding work and accomplishments of the Rio Rancho High School Marine Corps Junior ROTC. For school year 21-22, the RRPS Marine Corps ROTC has been recognized as a Naval Honor School. This selection is based on several criteria, including the number of cadets active in school activities and clubs, the number of community service hours for the unit as a whole and per cadet, the number of organizations assisted by the unit, and scholastic achievements, including the number of academic awards and scholarships given to cadets. The units are also measured by participation in public affairs, events, community service, drill color guard team competitions, marksmanship competitions, academic competitions, leadership camps, physical fitness team competitions, and field trips. And the fact that many of these endeavors take place on weekends or outside of normal school hours speaks volumes, not only about our students' dedications, but also Captain Morales, as well as Master Sergeant Roberto Cruz's commitment to students and to this Rio Rancho High School. The mission of Rio Rancho High School's Marine Corps ROTC is to train and educate young men and women in the fundamentals of leadership, citizenship, and military skills. Our cadets' goals are to consistently exceed the expectations of our parents, our teachers, our friends, and our neighbors, and to represent the Marine Corps with distinction and pride throughout our community. The mission of Rio Rancho High School Marine Corps JROTC is to build a corps of cadets who will be productive members of society, future leaders who will be tangible examples of the pride, the spirit, and history that has distinguished Marines for 247 years, a vision of corps of young men and women dedicated to their country, their community, their families, and their friends, and a vision for adults who will practice these skills they learn along the way as cadets after leaving Rio Rancho High School. To the best of our knowledge, This is only the second time we have been named a Naval Honor School program. The last time we believe was in school year 2013-2014.
Oh.
So with that being said, present with us this evening are Captain Freddie Morales, Master Sergeant Roberto Cruz, members of our Color Guard Cadet Captain Jasmine Baca, Cadet First Lieutenant Una Tholson, Cadet First Sergeant Carlos Sweeney, and Cadet Staff Sergeant Talia Nahara.
President of the board, Dr. Cleveland, esteemed members of the board. First of all, let me start by saying that this is nerve-wracking because I didn't know that I was speaking, but humbling and honor. What a great honor to be part of this. I've never been to one of these. That's my fault, I know, but thank you so very much. And I also would like to add that that's 4 seniors in the back carrying the colors, and they get to experience something like this, and hopefully they'll be able to carry some of the experience and the knowledge that they get to hear from here. To that young man over there, great job, phenomenal. And I know that has nothing to do with JRTC, but I had to take a second and say, where is that money going to go? Phenomenal. Keep that going. And for the rest of you, I just wanted to throw something out there. What most members of the school district don't know is that those cadets start their day at about 5:45 in the morning. They don't go home until about 5 o'clock in the afternoon. That includes Saturdays. Now, on Saturdays, we do get to sleep in a little bit. So this Saturday, we don't start until 7. Okay. But and that also starts in July. And this year, we won't finish the season until the second week of May. So thank you all so very much for having us. I appreciate so much everything you guys do for our program. The only thing that I can do is tell you that it motivates the hell out of me. Sorry for my French. And I hope that I can live up to your standards. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Before you all leave, I know a number of students, especially at Rio Rancho, who are part of this program. And I just want to say thank you, that it has meant the world to them. You have done such a great job with our young men and our young women. And so I'm really grateful for this program. And I've seen a lot of students who maybe have struggled in a lot of different parts of their lives, but they find that structure that we have in this program has really, really helped them. And so thank you so much for everything that you've done for them. And Dr. Cleveland, did you want to add anything?
I would just say thank you again for long, just wonderful history at Rio Rancho High School. It's another name that comes to mind that I know some of you know, and that's Larry Morrell, who had a distinguished Marine career and loved it more than just about anything in the whole world. And when we looked at an ROTC, nothing would have done except for a Marine junior ROTC. And he played a wonderful role. He was a teacher at Lincoln and even started a small group before we officially had a junior ROTC. And so thank you for all you do for our kids every day. And to our cadets in the back, thank you for all of the time and effort and discipline you put in to this incredible program. So thank you all for being here.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you once again. Anyone else wants to? All right. So you can see that I have a hard time with change. So now I'm going to go to that item that we that we moved. So now we'll go to our business item B, which is to consider the approval of our Hall of Honor Committee recommendation of candidates for induction in 2023. So once again, Beth Pendergrass, our Chief Communications Strategy Engagement Officer, along with Danny Harper, Chair Hall of Honor of the Hall of Honor Committee.
Good evening, President Galbraith, Dr. Cleveland, and members of the board. As you know, in October, we presented to the board our opening of the nomination process for the Hall of Honor. So we are here this evening to share with the board the recommendations from the Hall of Honor Committee. We did open that nomination process to staff members, community members, and to our parents, and we received 17 nominations, and then we had 8 previous nominations. So in total, the committee looked at 25 different nominations and discussed in detail those that were qualified. We did have some nominations that came in that weren't qualified based on the for example, if you're retired, you have to be out for a year before you can be nominated. So wonderful nominations that will be able to be considered in the future, but some that weren't considered this year. So at this time, I want to turn it over to Miss Danny, who is our chair of the Hall of Honor Committee, to share a little bit. And then we have some guests with us who are going to present our 4 nominations for this year. So Dan.
Thank you, Beth.
Good evening, President Galbraith and members of the board and Dr. Cleveland. So as you know, selection to the Rio Rancho Public Schools Hall of Honor is the highest recognition bestowed by the Rio Rancho Public Schools Board of Education to honor individuals and corporations for their extraordinary service over an extended period of time to the children of Rio Rancho Public Schools. The Hall of Honor was created in 2014, and since then, the board has inducted 13 outstanding individuals and corporations as members of the Hall of Honor. The Board of Education has entrusted this process of accepting nominations to the Hall of Honor and of recommending candidates for induction to a committee consisting of community members and district representatives. The Hall of Honor committee members are listed on the screen, and I would like to thank them for their thoughtful consideration and deliberation. And I would like to invite the committee members who are present this evening to please stand. Thank you, everyone. The Hall of Honor Committee truly enjoyed reviewing the many wonderful nominees we received for induction into the Hall of Honor 2023. We would like to thank everyone who submitted their nominees for our review. The committee may recommend up to 4 candidates for induction into the Hall of Honor each year. It is our pleasure to recommend to the board 4 outstanding candidates for induction into the Hall of Honor 2023. I would like to invite the members of the Hall of Honor Committee and others who have been asked to present these nominees to provide a review of each nominee's contributions to Rio Rancho Public Schools. The nominees are Gary Veem, presented by Richard Von Aken; Kenneth Todd, presented by Bruce Carver; Glynis Foster, presented by Beth Pendergrass; Jim Wheatley, presented by Jerry Reeder, and we'll go in that order.
I am actually speaking on behalf of Scott Affentranger. He was able to attend tonight, so I'm going to read his words from Scott. And so he says, thank you, Danny. Dr. Cleveland, members of the board, it is my pleasure to say a few words about Glynis Foster, who has been selected by the RRPS Hall of Honor Committee for induction into the RRPS Hall of Honor. Glynis has been retired from RRPS for several years, but many of us fondly remember her importance to the district. Glynis was a major contributor in the opening of the district by joining the district as the first human resources director. Glynis's leadership was instrumental in securing the very best employees and establishing outstanding HR processes that have shaped the HR department to this present day. There are a handful of people in my career that made a major impact on my life professionally, and Glynis is definitely one of those. Glynis was all about business, firm but fair, and someone I got a personal kick out of engaging with philosophically, and Glynis certainly held her own. Glynis was a model of professionalism, hard work, and strong ethical foundations. She also had a tremendous sense of humor and built a solid relationship with people. If the world had more employees and colleagues like Glynis Foster, we would all be in a better place. And that is the nomination for Glynis Foster.
President Galbraith, board members, Dr. Cleveland, thanks for having us. Thank you so much, the two of you, Beth and Danny. Interesting committee. I didn't realize we were having a principals administrative meeting here, alumni, essentially, except for Katie Harvey, Rio Rancho High School. Interesting. Anyway, my name is Rich Von Aken. I was principal of Rio Rancho High School from 2004 through 2016. Aside from, and Gary Veem, aside from coaching a very green high school principal, moi, regarding athletics in 2004 when I started, Mr. Veeam put in place solutions to the many issues of a brand new high school. There was a gym, auxiliary gym. It was almost ready by the time school started, for volleyball, boys and girls basketball, wrestling. But there wasn't a stadium, there wasn't a soccer facility, and we didn't have fields for baseball at that time, back in '97. So one of the things that I greatly appreciate Gary Veeam did, he developed the infrastructure for athletics. And you can see the facility now. It's just outstanding. As far as the community goes, he worked to create Rams Inc., a booster organization. Essentially, it was an umbrella organization for all the other sports. And he made sure the coaches followed through on their financial responsibilities as far as not spending the money before it was encumbered. And that was a big thing. That was a big thing. But he worked with, at the time, the finance director, Randy Evans, who would actually come out on a yearly basis to review those critical items. So setting up that part of Rio Rancho High School. As far as supervision goes, he worked really well with the coaches, the student athletes, as well as the parents. He was visible at games, home games, away games, and that's a lot of time. Thank goodness his wife, Fran, allowed it. Anyhow, he worked also with the administrators. And, and I'm talking personally, he gave me a lot of pointers as to what constitutes a top-notch program, which is what he aspired for. And I think he did a good job. And one of the things he always says, and of course, he bled blue and green. And once a Ram, always a Ram. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, President Galbraith, board members, and Dr. Cleveland. Ken Todd started working at Rio Rancho High School as a volunteer in 1997. Okay. He got involved as a parent. He was a baseball parent, got involved with the Booster Club. Like a lot of parents, the difference in Ken and all these other parents is Ken just stayed after his kid left. He just stayed there year after year after year after year after year and kept doing it. His hobby, unusual hobby, and his passion was volunteering for athletic events. Mm-hmm. That's what he loved to do. That's who he wanted to be, and that's who he is. Community, coaches, athletes, he loved it. You can see him at away games. Also, he's a huge fan. He worked the press box for us Friday nights for many, many, many years. He just retired from doing that this year. Okay, he's been doing it forever. And he gets the food every Friday. He gets it all donated. And then he just loved the interaction. He loved the responsibility of it. And it's what he did. He helped with the baseball stadium, the softball field, some of which Richard alluded to with Gary, and really happy about Gary's nomination also. Great friend, super person that started this all here. But back to Ken, he built dugouts. He helped put the beautiful chairbacks that you see over there at Rio Rancho High School, those beautiful chairbacks, and that, he got those donated and he helped put them in. He also works events for us, event master, gym master, facility use agreement master. The field house, the baseball field house, has been named after Ken in honor of him and all the hours that he put in, the Ken Todd Field House. the district's been so fortunate to have a guy like Ken, who was a mechanic by trade and also an electrician. So many times he saved us with score clocks that were broke and 30-second timers. He can do it all. And he's not afraid to do the menial tasks like hoeing weeds, painting, getting a blower, blowing sand, and we have plenty of that at the baseball stadium and the tennis courts. He does all that stuff because he enjoys it. Basically, they're givers and they're true givers, and Ken is just a true giver. He's got a huge heart. He's been a big part of Rio Rancho High School. He's a fixture over there in the Rio Rancho Public Schools, and this is just what Ken wanted to do. I can't think of a more deserving individual to be nominated for the Hall of Fame than Ken Todd. Thank you.
Thank you.
President Galbraith, Dr. Cleveland, members of the board, it's my honor to introduce Jim Wheatley. He's a retired lieutenant colonel in the Army, and he moved to Rio Rancho in 1991 with his wife, and they joined Rotary. He passed away just this past March at the age of 89. Just a bit of history. Rio Rancho High School had started the Phoenix Awards in sometime the late 90s for students that had overcome great obstacles and were able to graduate. In approximately 2005, Jim Wheatley worked with Rotary and worked with Rio Rancho High School to start 3 scholarships to be handed out at the Phoenix Award. And in order for them to attend college. When Cleveland High School opened up, he pushed Rotary to make sure that we matched that and that Rotary had those 3 scholarships for Cleveland High School as well. Both high schools are very grateful for the kindness of Mr. Wheatley and his consistent support and encouraging the Rotary program to provide the scholarships. In addition to the scholarships, Mr. Wheatley was highly involved in the Rotary Student Exchange program, both sending students outbound to other countries and the inbound students from other countries. And he would always make sure to visit them to make sure that they were doing well in the Rio Rancho Public Schools. He also participated in the Rotary tutoring program in working with our elementary schools to make sure we have teacher volunteers and schools that wanted to participate. Jim always wanted to ensure the success of Rio Rancho Public School students while they were in school and after they had graduated. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Really quick, Danny, do you mind if we just applaud for all of these wonderful individuals? Because
It's individuals like this that make Rio Rancho Public Schools amazing. And I would like to thank Richard and Bruce and Beth and Jerry. Thank you so much for your presentations. So President Galbraith and members of the board and Dr. Cleveland, do you have any comments or questions for us?
Any comments from the board? We can start down here. Anything from Gary? Do you have any comments or questions on?
Find better people than these 4, and the presentations were outstanding, but these are such outstanding people, and thank you.
Thank you. Jeff, anything?
I just want to make one comment about Ken Todd. When we moved here in, I want to say 2013, and my son attended Rio Rancho High School. I mean, this is the first time me meeting this guy. I met him at a football practice, and he just, out of the blue, just kind of welcomed himself and just made me and my son feel right at home. So when you were talking about Ken Todd, I said, yeah, I've witnessed it. I've experienced the warmth from this guy. So I just want to comment about that true individual that just made us feel right at home. And I just want to say that about Ken.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. And then Jessica, do you have anything?
Just a job well done on bringing forth 4 great candidates. and like they said, outstanding citizens and contributors to our great school district. So thank you.
Thank you. Noreen, do you have anything?
No, just to say that it's 4 outstanding candidates, and I agree with Dr. Cleveland. I didn't think we could top last year, but we did. So I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
That's true. That's true. I know it's wonderful to see all these, growing up here in Rio Rancho, I recognize each of these. Ken Todd, I graduated with his son. So, and I can remember his daughter from when I was in elementary school. So it is wonderful to see these community members here being presented tonight. Dr. Cleveland, anything?
Yeah, I just make a few really quick comments. It is a wonderful group of folks. And so I thank everyone who took the time to nominate and send that information in. Glennis was just a critical person as we created this district, and she was part of Hamus. And the superintendent in Hamus, who was a wonderful man, very helpful when we started the district, came to see me and he said, if you just take one person out of Hamus Valley, you take Glennis Foster. And he said, her work ethic and her ability to work with kids, and and he was very wise, and it was a very good hire on our part. She also, Glennis didn't stand very tall, but she was a basketball player, and she played nationally and internationally, and she was just fast. That's everything she ever did was fast. And interestingly enough, her coach that she recruited, she's the only one that could have pulled it off, was Sally Marcus, the head of the NMAA. And Sally was the coach of this women's team. And she kept saying when I retired, I would join the team. And I said that I'll never retire because the demands, they were a powerhouse. Gary Veem, I would just want to say, he started with nothing. I tell you, nothing. And built a program, and within 2 to 3 years, our athletic programs were competitive, and we began that transition. And he's one of the few people that has earned the top athletic director award in 2 states. He has it from the state of Iowa, and he also has it from the state of New Mexico. And they couldn't find but one other person, the whole history of that organization, that had earned that recognition in 2 different states. I will tell you there's so many funny stories with Gary, but one of them, and all of the work that went into the getting ready for the first basketball game, we're ready to play. And so much work had gone into that first basketball game, and it was packed. And the only thing we lacked was a basketball. And so to rush and get that basketball, I don't know where he found it, but we had a basketball, and the game came off. Ken Todd, I agree with what's been said, one of the most giving of individuals, and he just worked so many games, so many events, always willing to do what it took. But just a gentleman that extended, to your point, personal kindness to everyone. And I just think of the many times, the many personal kindnesses I saw him do. And so he's a wonderful applicant. And then Jim Wheatley, I spent a short time with Rotary. And, he was in this community, he and his wife, they had no children here, but they took on all the children of Rio Rancho as their children. And they contributed in so many different ways, certainly Rotary, the scholarships, just, he was always so positive. Every place he went, he was positive about the Rio Rancho Public School District, this new district, and what it would become. And he and his wife both played an important role by way of Rotary. So this is an incredible class. So thank you, everyone. I think, I think this is a great group. And I appreciate everyone who did nominate someone. And if your person didn't get it this year, doesn't mean you should just give up. It means that maybe next year, and if they didn't quite make the requirements, then and hold it and submit it again. So again, thanks to everyone who took their time to nominate.
Thank you, Dr. Cleveland.
And thank you, wonderful board, for your consideration and for all you do.
Thank you. Thank you.
Madam President, I'd like to make a motion to approve the Hall of Honor Committee recommendations of the 4 candidates for the induction in 2023.
Board Member Jeff Morgan, I second.
Okay, we have a motion by Jessica Tyler and a second by Jeff Morgan. And Kim, can you take a roll call vote for us?
My pleasure. Vice President Morgan.
Yes.
Secretary Scott.
Yes.
Board Member Tripp,
Yes.
Board Member Tyler,
Yes.
and President Galbraith.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being here. Appreciate it. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. I really look forward to when we do all of those things. So I'm grateful for that opportunity to learn more about these community members. Okay, so we are now moving into reports, back to reports, and we'll start with our athletics department update. Bruce Carver, our executive director of athletics, will present to us.
Good evening again, President Galbraith, board members, and Dr. Cleveland. I want to start my presentation with a question. Why does the athletic department exist and what's the role? I believe deep in my heart, in my true north, my true philosophy, that athletics does a lot more than just provide recreation for students. That's one of the things it does. But it teaches life skills. It teaches values such as discipline, hard work, sacrifice, building character, overcoming adversity, all of those things. Our job is to prepare these athletes for the bigger game when we get through with high school, college, or whatever it is the young man or the young woman are going into. That's our bigger job. Now, data and research will show that students who are in activities, all activities, not just athletics, do better as far as their attendance and as far as their grades. It's been proven many times. So, I know we're having a few attendance problems, and this is one area that can help. This is one area that can help. I think students come to school for those relationships and those coach-mentor relationships, those friendships, okay? At the bottom of this page, I've got our numbers up there, and quite proud of our numbers that we do have in the Rio Rancho Public Schools with our programs. We have good numbers. And then I have our coach numbers at the bottom. Volunteer coaches does not necessarily mean they are volunteer at no pay. That just means coaches who aren't teachers, okay? Coaches who aren't teachers. And I put that up there for a reason. There's been some discussions in the state about, not having these volunteer coaches, and they're so important. I think we'd have a hard time finding 103 individuals, teachers, who want to coach. Not a lot of money for the hours. And then, of course, finding teachers who really have the knowledge would be difficult. 3 key words I came in with this year in our program to try to hang our hat on, so to speak. Culture, team, and accountability. Those are the 3 key words. We feel like we needed to reestablish our culture a little bit. Some of our head coaches, in visiting with them after COVID, some things slipped at times. And then we have some new coaches who have to establish their culture. And part of culture is just those core values in the program. Things like academic expectations, things like being on time. If we don't teach anything else, hopefully we teach a few things. One of them is being on time. That is so important. The rest of your life, you have a job, you've got to be on time. Family functions, you need to be on time for family functions. But social media expectations. Nowadays, you better say what's acceptable and what's not acceptable with social media. You better have covered that, okay? Very, very important. The word team. 7th grade through 12th, we're going to teach students to be part of a team. That's so important. They're going to be a part of a team the rest of their life at their job, etc. So that's another thing that's very important. We need to learn to be a good teammate. And then the word accountability. We want our athletes to come through the door and be coachable. That's not always easy. They've had a tough day at school, things going on at home, boyfriends, girlfriends, etc. But that's our goal. And we want to clearly communicate the standard. And when I say that, I'm referring to our conduct, how we act on the bench, how we act after the game with sportsmanship, during timeouts, alcohol, drugs, everything. We have to clearly communicate what that standard is. That's a big part of our head coaches' jobs, our middle school coaches. And then we have to revisit the standard. You don't just lay the standard out there and say this is it and then never come back. You have to constantly revisit what that standard is. The word supervision is real big in our athletic world. There's more lawsuits because of supervision than anything. So that's a buzzword, constant in the athletic world. Some hot spots, the back of the bus, behind the gym, the locker rooms. We have to supervise. So we constantly reminding them of that. Evaluations, I'm going to talk a little bit more about those, but we're trying to improve our evaluations, something I feel like we need to do a better job with, and we're really working at. Our coaches need to teach life skills, as I mentioned earlier, and develop leaders. Those are things we're emphasizing. Okay. The strategic plan, obviously, you guys have been hearing the other executive directors go over these 4 areas, and I'm going to cover these in a short version. As far as staff excellence, the first one, hit the slide there, the next slide, thank you. We are part of the New Mexico High School Coaches Association. As a school member, we buy for the entire school district. And what's nice about that is all of our coaches get to go to clinic free in the summer. It doesn't cost them anything, 7th grade through 12th. So that's something. We had some Title IX training that Sherry did this year. She covered sexual harassment, bullying, hazing, reporting. We went into detail. She did a good job with those. That's our staff. The short version there. I'm not going to go through it all. You guys can read it, but that's our staff here with the Rio Rancho Public Schools. As far as engagement and innovation, we started a middle school cross-country program this year that I'm very proud of. We had over 100 students in the first year, and that's 100 students. Who knows? Maybe they wouldn't even have participated possibly in another sport. So we added to our numbers. We only had 5 meets the first year. We just kind of stepped out there a little bit. We're going to add a meet next year and go with 6. Excited about that program. We put our physicals online. Not a big deal to a lot of people, but in our world, that was a big deal. We've got 2,600 physicals now. Everything's done online. Evaluations are now done online. You hit submit. It's very nice. We don't have to chase paper. But I personally came in and tried to have a training with our athletic coordinators. I wanted more detail with our evals, not only in addressing areas of improvement, but noting the positive things that our coaches do, documenting those positive things, not only on the field, but you've got coaches who do great things off the field and pushing kids in the classroom. Some coaches work well with parents. So we're trying to improve on those. At the bottom, one of our innovative things we've done is we've revised our youth camp processes and procedures. And basically, we tighten them up, okay? We tighten them up how we pay people and what we go through. And Mike Baker helped me a great deal with that. And I really appreciate all his help that he gave me. Safety and wellness. 4 areas I'll cover with you briefly. Anytime we have a concussion, we have what we call a protocol. Student has to set out 240 hours. That's 10 days. And our trainers have specialized training, and we watch them for 10 days. After 3 days, we might be able to ride a bike, maybe not. We might be able to run, just depends. But they're always putting them through a series of tests. And our coaches have to have training over concussions also, know what's going on. Lightning, our trainers have an app. Anything within 10 miles, we have to get off the field immediately. We have a bullhorn. Trainer will be out there, get off the field, or he'll call the head coaches, or she will. We have a heat index, which is basically humidity and temperature, okay? When we get up into 101, 102, 104, there's a few days, that's pretty rough. Of course, we don't have the humidity of a Houston or And we certainly don't have the high temperatures of somewhere like Death Valley, Arizona, but we do have to watch it very closely. We have a new thing we're doing, diabetes training. And our head nurse has been involved in this. And if we have a diabetic athlete on our team, we have to be trained. Level 1, level 2. And we want somebody there that knows what's going on with that student athlete. So that's something new we're doing. As far as the next slide, I've got down something called equity procedures. I developed these probably over 10 years ago. And in summary, a short version, it's a set of guidelines and rules that keep us within Title IX, and it keeps us equitable from school to school, middle schools, high schools. So we just have some guidelines that we go by, and it's pretty good. Of course, over the years, we've tweaked them, and we've changed this and that and added to them. But I'll give you an example like uniforms. We just can't go out and buy uniforms because we want some new uniforms. It's the same for everybody. Every 4 years, we buy new uniforms. Transportation, we have a 70-mile radius for middle schools. We don't travel over 70 miles for middle schools. You know, we try to save the bigger stuff for when they get in high school. How we feed our athletes, 60 miles over, we feed them. Anything under 60, we don't feed them unless it's a state tournament. Those are some examples of our equity procedures. Going to the next slide, talking about, I just wanted to show you basically our facilities, some facility things. This is just in 1 year what we did last year. Some years we spend a little bit more money on one school because of their needs. Some years it may be this one, some years it's that one. But there's always needs, believe me. And a lot of it's maintenance, like putting up a backboard, you know, or we need more storage room, so we buy a shed. Those are just some examples. And I've got Rio Rancho High School, the next slide. And you can see there at the bottom, we spent more at Rio Rancho last year, even though we did buy that video board. And of course, my portion of that video board was just 1/3 of what it actually cost. It cost $180,000, and I contributed $60,000. Rio Rancho High School was not ready financially to buy the board last year. We think we will be this year, and that's our plan, to come in next year with the new scoreboard at Rio Rancho High School. But anyway, I'm not going to go through all those. I just wanted you to see, we feel like we do a lot. And we do it with gate receipt money. We do it with some SB 9 money that we do have, some general supply money. And there's always needs. And we feel like our facilities are the front porch of the school. I think a lot of people don't see anything at that school but the stadium and the gymnasium. Sometimes they don't really see inside of those classrooms. So it's very important. We have some challenges like any school district. I listed 3. I think maintaining grass fields here is difficult, and I've had some conversation with Dr. Cleveland about this. You know, water's at a premium, and with the manpower, it's just difficult. I think we can save money over time with more artificial turf. We certainly can't afford to have all of our grounds artificial turf, but we can do some things to improve that, and I think it'll make life easier on our maintenance people. I really do. It'll make their life a lot easier. Stipends, I think it's time we have to look at them. It's been so long since we've raised stipends, and I think it's time we have to look at them. I think if you every few years you raise them, you don't have to wait 10 years and then all of a sudden you got to have this huge jump. We just want to stay up with other schools. But you're always looking for money for projects and upkeep, and that's always a concern. I've got some pictures I wanted to share with you. I don't know if a lot of people don't realize how much we put into improving not just the turf, but our drainage at Rio Rancho High School and Cleveland High School. And I want to thank Melanie and Mike for their commitment. You know, they were really committed to, you know, if we're going to do this, if we're going to spend this kind of money on turf, let's make sure we don't have this huge dirt and floods, basically, where we have water coming down like we had at Cleveland and at Rio Rancho too from the top. So these are just some pictures of those. If you'll go back one there, underneath the stadium at Cleveland, we've got pipes underneath the bleachers, and we drain the water outside of the stadium. That's really helped. And I think these are really going to be great improvements. We spent over $1 million invested, and it helped our landscaping too, obviously, at both schools. So I'm very proud of that. I wish I could have had a better shot of Cleveland, a drone shot, but I wasn't able to get a drone shot. If anybody wants to get their drone and give me a Cleveland High School stadium shot, I'd love to have a couple. You see how good that Rio Rancho field looks from up at the top, okay? But last, planning for the future and opportunities. I think it's important that we continue to track the code of conduct, very important, and our equity procedures that I just showed you for changes. We've started to have discussions with our security folks and about emergencies and how we handle those protocols for handling. Hopefully it'll never happen, but there's things that could happen. And you can never be prepared enough in those situations, but we begin to talk about those, okay? And we want to get better. Last, develop professionally in regard to the mental health of our athletes. I don't think we can forget about everything going on in these students' lives. We need to be knowledgeable about all the different problems that they can have. Again, the role of a coach is a lot more than just teaching fundamentals. We need to be counselors. We need to be mentors. We need to support. And basically, we need to care about those athletes. There's a saying, you've probably heard it, but one of my favorite, your athletes need to know how much you care before they care how much you know. I'll take questions at this time.
Well, first, I just want to say thank you so much for a good report. As we go into questions, we'll start down here with Gary.
Bruce, thank you. I actually don't have any questions. I have a couple, 3 comments, and thanks for middle school cross country. And I know it's not a challenge up there, but challenging for middle school will always be a great need, as you know. So keep it up at the middle school level and keep them going, keep them participating. Thank you for the youth camps. I think that's another big critical thing from your report. And I think that parents in this community appreciate it. And I think they aspire to be future Storms and future Rams. And I can't think of a better way for a child to spend time at the elementary level than with those coaches, because you know how great your coaches are. And that's the best leaders we can have for those children at the elementary level. And third, I know there was a lot of great things, but third, thank you for the diabetes training. I think that was outstanding call, for our young people with diabetes. So thank you. Just highlighting just 3 of those things. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thank you. I just had one question. I'm on slide 18 where you're talking about the planning for the future and opportunities. And continue to track code of conduct and equity procedures for change. I didn't see that in any of your previous slides.
On the code of conduct?
Yes, I didn't see.
I didn't show it. It's so boring. I didn't figure you wanted. No, I'm just kidding. The code of conduct is something. Boy, it's not a big deal until something comes up, and then it's a big deal. So you need to have everything I's dotted and T's crossed. That when this happens, this is the result. This is the consequence, and very clear. So, we come back and look at it every couple of years and we, look to see if we need to tweak anything.
So that would be up under the safety and wellness.
Code of conduct?
Yeah. I'm just trying to figure out where would it?
I don't know that it would be under safety and wellness, really. I don't know.
Okay.
Where you put it, basically, code of conduct is, there's some gray area in it, but some of it's very specific, mainly when it comes to drugs and alcohol. You know, if a student gets a minor in possession, this is what's going to happen. It's going to be 20 activity days.
Right.
You're going to sit out those games. You can still practice. That's what, you know, code of conduct is. Second time, if it happens again, you're going to get 45 days. So we're real specific when it comes to drugs and alcohol.
All right, and as far as protection of the students, of the athletes?
Mentally, you're talking about my last
Well,
comment?
I mean, let me see if I could. Let me think about how I want to ask this.
I can come back to you if you want.
Because, yeah, when I'm thinking about protection, any kind of misconduct around sexual misconduct activities, different things like that. I know it doesn't happen here that often, but I could see that being an issue. So I'm not sure if we have anything to protect our students and our kids from that.
Yeah.
So-
How
so-
about, can I ask my follow-up question that goes with yours, maybe? Will that
Yeah,
help?
yeah,
Would
sure,
that be
sure.
okay?
Yeah, maybe you could answer a lot clearer than
Yeah, and I don't know, and maybe it'll help, but maybe it won't.
All right.
So we do, you were talking about that we have 103 volunteer coaches, which I am so, so grateful for. And I see, and it's been brought to our attention, this year about coaches in the state, just like you had brought up, that they're trying to perhaps not have all those volunteer coaches, but we have such a great need for them. Have we in our district, have we had conversations around how to protect our students when it comes to our volunteer coaches and our coaches as a whole? But we know that part of the reason in the state that they are trying to move away from volunteer coaches is some of the safety concerns that we have with our students. And so I don't know if that helps, Jeff, at all.
keep going.
But my question is just, have we had any of those conversations, or perhaps what are some things that we can do in here to help protect our students here in the Rio Rancho district? And that can go to either you or Dr. Cleveland.
And Bruce, maybe you could share a little bit about what you do to train volunteer coaches, what our process is, how do you work with those folks to better increase safety with our volunteer coaches, because you do spend quite a bit of time and effort in talking to them about the expectations.
Well, first they have to have a background check, of course. And then they have to get a coach's license. And that coach's license involves, a couple of online classes, first aid, general coaching techniques. And then they do our safe schools, just like all of our teachers. I think there's like 10 classes, those little safe school classes y'all are very familiar with. They go through all that. So once we get that, then our athletic coordinators at each school, anytime they get a new coach, they have a sit down with them, and they go through the code of ethics that our state has for teachers, coaches, professionals, and they highlight that, and they go through everything that's in the code of ethics. Those are just some things right off the top of my head. As far as training, a lot of times you get somebody in there, and you hopefully get them before the season starts, somebody that actually wants to do it and has gone through this and got the license and so on, and the coaches had an interview with them, etc. And then we're ready to go. There's not like tons of trainings that they have to go through besides getting coach's license and sitting down with the athletic coordinator.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. Thank you. Dr. Cleveland, did you want to add to that?
Go ahead and let the board, and then
Okay.
I don't think.
Okay. Well, and one thought I have, and I'm going to go to Gary here in just a
Yes, I
second.
do have some things.
Okay. Well, in regards to this, I wonder too if it might be helpful for us to do some things with our parents and with our students. I kind of wrote down as you were saying that, here's something, say something, if I think sometimes our students don't know what to do when there's some of those things that are happening that are unfortunate, and our parents too. And so I don't know, maybe that is something too to look into, those sort of things is helping our students and our parents to know the lines that they can go through when something happens, or if they see, or if they suspect, and hopefully nothing ever happens, but when they do. Gary, go ahead if you wanted to follow up.
I just kind of want to follow up from the state school board committee that I serve on, and that is in July, I challenged the NIMSIA that I think data will show that there's less misconduct from volunteer coaches that there is from actually educators that move from state to state. And the NIMSIA backed up that data point at the meeting. And I said, the reason why I think it's really good at the athletic level, I mean, the numbers aren't as bad as the perception is out there, is because we're having face-to-face meetings between athletic directors and coaches, and we're having face-to-face trainings, and we're having face-to-face Title IX trainings. And one of the things that we don't see as much as far as educators that get in trouble that move from one state to another state is the fact that we're only doing the online training course. So I think that I asked a question to NIMSIA, and NIMSIA brought forth that I was correct in that there was less than perception because of the quality job we do face to face. And I see Mr. Chavez raising his hand, maybe respectfully disagreeing over that.
You can come up, Mike, if you would like to. Did you want to come up and share something? Is that okay with you? Come to our microphone so everyone can hear you.
Madam Galbraith, Madam President, Dr. Cleveland, members of the board. I just want to point out something here. We have actually, over the last year, I've worked very closely with Mr. Carver to significantly increase. And we've done this across the board with all of our contractors, with all of our employees of this district. Anyone who works with children in this district, we have significantly increased the level of care that we take to bring these people on and onboard them with our school district. One of the things that Mr. Carver and I worked on this year with volunteer coaches is that we, first of all, increased what we do before we bring a volunteer coach on, which is they are now required to complete an actual application, just as they would if they were applying for a job with the district. The athletic coordinator or athletic director is required to complete reference checks for these folks, and those reference checks must include references from any place that they have coached, particularly if they have coached with children in another public school or a private school or a charter school. Secondly, House Bill 128 does require us to require any volunteers, coaches, contractors, applicants to complete a process where if they have worked in any other public school, charter school, or private school, to complete a form that goes to that prior school, that the prior school will then complete, informing us of any ethical misconduct that person has ever been involved in. So we do that, all of those volunteer coaches complete that process as well. So before we even accept one of these volunteer coaches and begin the process of onboarding them, we have them complete a complete application and do the House Bill 128 process. Then we go through the onboarding process, which includes all of the safe schools, the background check, which does include a criminal history affidavit. If there is any kind of hit on that background check, it goes through our personnel investigations manager, Rich Misback, who is, by the way, former retired captain of police for the Rio Rancho Police Department. They are required to review and acknowledge all of our board policies, the standards of conduct, and the staff handbook. They are required to assure us that they understand the policies and procedures of the district. Then they have to go through Mr. Carver. We have worked together on his standards of conduct for coaching as well. So I just want to let the board know, and that goes for all of our contractors, all of our volunteers. Volunteers actually go through the same process. They do fill out an application. We don't do reference checks on them, but they are also required to do background checks, safe schools, and so on. But for our volunteer coaches, we have actually put quite a number of safeguards in place. So I just wanted to come up and kind of support Mr. Carver that he takes this very seriously. He comes down to me quite often and talks to me about his concerns about the different, whether it's a staff member or a volunteer coach. But he does meet with me quite regularly to talk about these situations. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. And and I know we've been so great here, but I think because it's been such a hot topic, I just think it's a good one for us to discuss. Jeff, did that help, or did you have more follow-up question too? Anything else you want?
I
Okay.
think I got mixed up on this safety protocol. I was talking about emergency safety protocol
Yeah.
at athletic events.
Yeah.
Something happens at a ball game. Anyway.
No, and that's good too. I'm going to go to Jessica unless Dr. Cleveland, did you want to follow up on that one before I go?
Let the other two
Okay.
board, but that's what I was hoping. Thank you, Mike, for kind of saying we have greatly improved the training for our volunteer coaches. And I know they grumble a little bit about it because it takes a long time to have to do it all, but it is an extra level of safety, and you can't come back and say, well, I didn't know. And the training is pretty thorough. So it's the same training we use with our teachers and with others. So it is important. And, we continue all of the time. We keep thinking about, safety. It's just everywhere. It's everything we think about. How do we keep students safe? How do we keep the crowd safe? How do we, it's just out there all of the time. And I want to address that a little bit in terms of finances in a minute, but obviously to give Board Member Tyler and Scott an opportunity to ask. And then I do want to share a couple of things.
Okay, sounds great. Board Member Tyler?
I just wanted to thank you for the presentation, as well as agree with you on the fact that, our facilities are often the front porch to our district and our community as a whole. And we're continually being asked to host even more and more events from the NMAA. This year, for the first year, the state soccer tournament was held at Cleveland High School. And that day I spent most of the day out at the field. We were also having a baseball field with a junior college that, what junior college wants to go to a high school to play a fall ball scrimmage game, but they want to come to our school to do that, and they're willing to do that. And that speaks to the volumes of the quality of facilities we have. And so I think that's an outstanding thing for our community and obviously our students. So thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you. It is interesting. I was at we don't host the state cross country anymore, but I was out at Academy and looking at their scoreboard actually, and I told Sal Gonzalez, I was like, we need a scoreboard just like theirs. But it's because of those things that they can host those events, and putting up live results and all of those things, and we don't realize how many people that brings into our city and into our community and all the revenue that can bring in. And so it is a really important thing for us to have. And so it's good for us to maintain those things and have those things. Noreen, Scott, are you still with us? Did you?
Yes, I found your presentation excellent, and I enjoyed hearing all the things that you're doing. I'm very glad, Amanda, that we asked about the safety issues because that has made the news a lot in the last few years, and it is something that we're all concerned about. So, Mr. Carver, I really appreciate the excellent presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. And then Dr. Cleveland.
Let me just add a couple of points and just some things that kind of reemphasize some things that Bruce has shared with you. One, on the issue of fields. We have, historically, we put turf down at Rio Rancho High 3 times. Extremely expensive to redo that field. We put grass down 3 times. We did everything they said to do, and they all died. We sit out here on sand hills, and it's just real hard to get grass to grow. We have, it's not just, obviously it's the cost of the field it costs you something. But as Bruce said, when you put down artificial turf, but there are savings in terms of water, which is precious here. There is savings in terms of the time to mow the fields, fertilize the fields, cut the fields, and certainly the lining. There's so much personnel time that goes into grass fields. And so looking at long-term savings, it really seems to make sense as we begin to convert some of these other fields to artificial turf, because just real grass fields are really hard to grow in Rio Rancho. The other is, as I mentioned before, the importance athletics. I think Bruce did such a nice job of what's the purpose of athletics. It's not an end into itself. It is a way to get students involved and engaged, and we have the data. We haven't done it recently. It might be something we need to do again. We brought in the grade point averages of those kids that are attached to something and those that aren't, and it was significantly different. Some students have really other ways to be attached in terms of their own family, their personal life, their personal interests. But for a lot of kids, this is the only thing they are really attached to outside of their family. And so it's really important. And it does show up in terms of grade point averages. We have the data to show that. In terms of keeping up our fields, not only are they a draw for the community, which they definitely are, but there's real liability when you don't have your track or your other things maintained. Because when there's an accident, then we end up paying an awful lot. So maintaining our fields is really important. Yes, a lot of the events are held here, and sometimes our kids kind of hate that because they want to go somewhere too. But it saves us a ton of money when we don't have to put those kids on buses. There's less lost instructional time because they don't have to go a day before somewhere. And it actually benefits our community. Our city manager shared with me some statistics a couple of years ago about how much money the city of Rio Rancho made in some of these large events. It brings in people eat here, they stay here, they spend money here, so it helps our community as well. So we really make out well when we can keep those events here for a lot of reasons, but it's also very cost effective. You know what transportation costs? Loading teams up and taking them places is very expensive. That being said, we've been kind of victim of our own success. And so this year, Bruce had to really struggle to get us some games in some areas because they said they didn't want to play us. We were too good. And so then we saw our costs just shoot up because we had to start taking the football team out of state. And so the more we can keep here, it's really a positive for us to do that. We've heard a lot, so I just want to say it again. It was said earlier. Both high schools were offered the same deal for a scoreboard. Cleveland jumped on a little earlier because they had some resources they could spend on it. The same exact offer was given to Rio Rancho High, and they're very close to getting it. So both schools were given the very same deal in order to get that scoreboard. Being said, our scoreboards were not in good shape, and they absolutely needed to be replaced. So those are just a few comments on some of the points. But the bottom line is there some things that are costing more. Transportation is costing more when we have to take students anywhere. The cost of fuel is so high. The other thing is, as we pay attention to safety and security, the costs for it have gone up, and they've gone up significantly. But we felt like we have to do it in order to keep everyone safe. And, we've all talked about before that right now we're dealing in a time without a lack of civility and a lot of anger. And you've got to have people there that can take care of those issues. And I think you brought one that you saw, we're looking who would handle it. Mm-hmm. And so we are going to see, I believe, our security costs continue to be high or maybe even grow as we make sure that every event is covered. The other thing that I think is important, a big change this year, was that all athletic events had to have an administrator there. And so that also increased that workload for our administrators significantly to now have to not only go to varsity games, but junior varsity games, CD games. In addition to that, certainly fine arts events and other things are important too. So that whole issue of security and certainly Kurt has raised some issues about security at fine arts events that we've got to also take a look at. So unfortunately, that is costing the district more money. So
Well, thank you. And I do want to say, Bruce Carver, you are wonderful to watch when you're out there working. I love going to these events and seeing you talk with the coaches and everyone. No one's scared of you. Everyone's just so happy to talk with you and to work with you. And so thank you. You are doing an amazing job for our athletics here in the district.
Appreciate that. Thank
Yeah.
you very much.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so our next report will be our elementary curriculum and instruction department update, and Joy Morales, our executive director of elementary curriculum instruction, is here to present.
You'll recall we've done secondary, and so now you get the second act. Yeah.
You get the other half. Good evening, President Galbraith, Dr. Cleveland, members of the board. Thank you for having me this evening. So I'm here to present elementary CNI to you tonight. So here you will see who we are and our collective why. Why do we exist? Why do we do what we do? So we consist of 3 district coordinators, 13 instructional coaches, and together we believe that our role is to serve and equip our teachers so that they can be the best versions of themselves for our students. Our focus areas this year are really core knowledge, language arts. We'll continue with Eureka Math, as well as MLSS, which is the multi-layered system of support that we offer, and letters, the big letters, the language essentials for teachers of reading. So we'll go through and I'll show you how we're supporting our strategic plan tonight. So we support teachers from the time that they get hired all the way through to when they're ready to advance their next level of licensure. And we do that in multiple ways. We have new teacher induction starting in the summer, as well as the UNM residency, which is new this year. We also provide job embedded support through learning labs, professional development opportunities throughout the year, as well as dossier support. So as you know, our teachers move through their layers for their licensure by submitting a dossier. And we've got an elementary and a secondary coordinator that support our teachers. And recently we had over 30 teachers come for that support. So it's really a good collaboration for them. And then we also have one of our, Heidi Whirling, who is one of our coordinators and one of our master teachers that help to support teachers who want to become national board certified as well. And that's a real big certification as well. So one of the ways that we support engagement and innovation is through the adoption of high quality instructional materials. And as you know, Core Knowledge Language Arts is our brand new ELA program. And it's been a very heavy lift so far, but one that we are already seeing some amazing things with. It is aligned to the science of reading. It's actually founded on the science of reading. They've had more than 20 years of experience with the science of reading. And so it's not a program that was later on developed or came back to redevelop their program to align with that. They were founded on that. And then, of course, the knowledge component, making sure that our students have that strong content knowledge as they move up through the grades, preparing them for college and career readiness. And this year, the way we're doing our implementation is through learning labs and instructional rounds. And this started last year with Eureka Math. Basically, learning labs are when we get an entire PLC together and they get to dig really deep into the materials. And then our instructional rounds are when we partner with the administrative team on a campus and we actually get to go around and see all the great things that are happening in a classroom. So we'll see some pictures to show you what we mean aside from just these ones here. Because Amplify Core Knowledge is a very different way of teaching language arts, we have put together a 3-year implementation plan. We want to make sure that we set the foundation in year 1 with really looking at that instructional design and delivery, understanding the focus objectives. But we also want to make sure we're focusing on student engagement as well as establishing those routines that are really important. And we believe if we can really get that solid foundation year 1, then we'll be able to go even deeper year 2 and then come back year 3. And the reason why we chose the 3 years, because we want to move away from the one and done, where we just really hit it hard year 1 and then we don't really revisit it very, very well after that. So we're dedicated to making sure that we go very deep with this. We are also continuing the work with math, and Karen DeLay has gotten very creative with how she's supporting math teachers. We're continuing with those learning labs and instructional rounds. It was optional this year for schools to participate in that, and I will tell you that every single school has signed up to participate in those. So it shows us the value in those learning labs and the instructional rounds. Karen has also started, I apologize, I wasn't quite done. She has, this is year 3 that she has put together a team of teachers that work on Saturdays. And this is her math collaborative learning team. We are up to 30 teachers and a wait list to participate one Saturday a month. And they go really deep in doing the math themselves, really understanding mathematical concepts. They choose a goal to go back and practice with their students, and then come back and share how they did. So it's just really showing the dedication that our staff has. Yeah. We also collaborate with education technology. This year, Read and Write is a new program that I'm still learning about. So it is a classroom instructional tool that's designed to provide students with multiple means of engagement, representation, and expression. So one of the examples that I can give is that a student who needs to write a narrative, they can use their voice so they can talk to it. It supports them with editing their written work, as well as a chance to hear back what they wrote. So it really helps support them through that entire writing process, making sure that they have proficiency with that. The other thing that's new this year is Edu Protocol. And our teachers are really enjoying these professional development opportunities. These are lesson frames that are used in a variety of ways across contents. And it really helps to enhance collaboration among students, or it can be used as a way for a teacher to assess what the student learned at the end of the day through an exit ticket type form. But it's just a little bit more engaging for our students. Safety and wellness. One of the big things this year is collaboration with our behavior specialists. As you've already heard from Janet and Renee, we do find that we have a large number of students whose needs aren't being met and they're not quite ready for the academic piece. We are also finding that our teachers need more tools in their tool bag. And so our behavior specialists have been offering some professional learning opportunities. And then they've also been coming and talking to principals and assistant principals to kind of help them and how can they support their teachers. Just helping students learn how to school again, so to speak. Character Strong, our teachers do have that for them to help them with the social emotional learning piece as well as that positive behavior, and that is under Sherry Carver's department. And then of course the online safety that we collaborate with Terry Meyer in the education technology. So our operational excellence, one of the things that we do is we're always looking for continuous improvement. So again, the learning labs, we started those last year. We got great results with those. We tweaked them a little bit for ELA as part of our job embedded implementation with that, and then continuing with the instructional rounds with the admin team. We are continuing with letters. That is the state mandate for the science of reading. And we are now K3. We have just over right around 300 teachers that are taking letters right now. We offer menu-based professional learning. However, I will tell you, I recently did a staff survey to get feedback from them. This menu is a virtual professional learning, and we heard from most teachers that they're a little over the virtual learning and they're ready to get back to face-to-face. So my coordinators and I, we are working to redefine, kind of reimagine what professional learning looks like for elementary teachers. And then of course the ongoing teacher support and the dossier support and the national board certification. Lots new this year. It seems like elementary is constantly being hit with new things. Of course, our core knowledge language arts program, we're seeing great things. I'm excited to share some some fun things with you guys tonight. The new teacher induction is new to us, as well as the residency program. The expansion of letters. Every year we're adding another grade level. We're anticipating 4th grade being added next year. We are looking at some possible revisions to the elementary report card. We know that the report cards are not always easy to explain to parents. It's not easy for a parent to just pick it up and know because of the language of the standards. So we're doing some work with that. And then the Social Studies Committee. For elementary, it's a 2-year process. We are able to postpone the actual adoption. And the reason we chose that is because Core Knowledge Language Arts has a lot of social studies concepts. And we wanted to take this year to learn the new standards, see what CKLA provides, so that we can make a more informed decision going into next year. So the highlights for us, with the CKLA implementation and those learning labs I've been talking a lot about, this year, Heidi Whirling runs the learning labs, and she will have met with every single elementary teacher twice this year. And so that's with their PLC on their campus where they can dig in deep to the program. The continued math learning labs, again, those are voluntary and every single school signed up to work with Karen around those. We will graduate our first cohort of letters. 1st grade teachers will be complete by January. So we do have a few that have already completed, but we'll have the majority of 1st grade done in January. And then kinder will follow them shortly after in May. So we're starting to see all that come full circle. And then, of course, the new teacher induction. That's been a wonderful experience for us. Another one to highlight is with CKLA. One thing that Heidi Whirling does every time she goes and meets with teachers is she goes around and has every teacher give a plus delta. What are their successes? What are the positive things they're seeing? And then what are the challenges that they're encountering? So this is the positive. These are the successes we're seeing. And if you look here, you'll see that we have an increase in student engagement. There was a lot of talk in the past that our students didn't seem to be very engaged, but we're seeing an increase in that. The program content, our teachers are engaged. Our teachers are actually using the word, "I love this program." So we wanted to celebrate that. And then, of course, the program design. They enjoy the way it's designed. Couple of pictures just to show you. This is Enchanted Hills. 2nd grade studied early Asian civilizations, and this is some of the work they did. The art teacher at this school collaborated with 2nd grade. She had some experience with the Asian civilization and jumped on the opportunity to do some work with the students. So we're starting to see some collaboration with related arts and our content teachers as well. And then these are just a couple. I did want to point out, and I'm going to butcher this. If you look, the strings, the yarn, so that I've not heard of this before, and I'm going to butcher this. It's a quipu. Have you heard of that before? So it's an ancient Inca device for recording information consisting of variously colored threaded knots in different ways. So it's how they communicate. So these pictures show a story of what each child here is communicating. And then each child had a little card that said what it is that they were communicating. So very impressive work. Challenges. Well, letters is a big challenge. And of course, time. Time is a big issue for us. And our teachers are expected to do some work outside of the contract day with that. CKLA implementation is any new implementation of any new program is always a challenge year one. Getting the materials, getting them out. Time and pacing is also a big challenge for teachers. Our student behaviors, which is why we're collaborating with our behavior specialists. And then, of course, just professional fatigue. Our teachers are tired. They have a lot on their plates. When we talk about the challenges from CKLA, this is a pie chart of the deltas. And you'll see pacing and time is the #1 challenge. But what's interesting is you'll also see program design. And so I don't know if you recall, one of the positives was program design. And then you've got the other half of the teachers that are saying program design is also a challenge. So we always have many opportunities for improvement. Again, the survey for our professional learning, that's a big one for us, and wanting to listen to teacher voice and how do they want to learn and how do we meet their needs. Teacher retention. How do we improve our practice so that we can make sure our teachers are fully supported and they want to stay with us, as well as the new teacher induction, the opportunity as we get through our first semester to reflect a little bit and to work on improving how we support our new teachers. And then planning for the future. Our biggest thing is how can we continue the work with the LA math through learning labs and instructional rounds? How do we get better at that? Does it look different? We will be looking at expanding letters to include 4th grade next year. New teacher induction. We would like the opportunity to possibly expand the number of days that we support new teachers at the beginning of the year to really be able to front load them and let them go deep in their materials. And that way when they get into the classroom, they feel solid. You know, the report card we hope to have designed and are able to come forth with a better report card. And then of course, it'll be social studies adoption for us next year. So that's elementary.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. So I will start over here with Jessica Tyler for questions.
I don't know if this is a fair question, but how do the CKLA and the letters curriculums work together? Are they closely aligned? Because I know, I mean, I hear a lot that, you know, like you said, both programs are a lot for the teachers to learn. And so now they're learning 2 programs. So are they closely aligned? Does that make it
very
easier,
closely
or?
aligned. So letters is really the brain science and research. So the theory of how students read and learn to read. And then CKLA is the application for us. So the 2 go very well together. They align very well. So teachers are getting that theory, and then the skill strand of CKLA comes in and gives them the tools to be able to actually teach the foundations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Noreen Scott, do you have any questions or comments?
I don't. Very, very good presentation.
Thank you. Thank you. And then Gary Tripp, any questions, comments?
Yeah, I have a question. Do we pay the teachers for coming on Saturdays?
We do pay them. Yes, we are paying them.
Thank you.
Mhm.
And I want to thank you for listening to the elementary teachers when they talk about all the professional development. Nobody works harder, and I've said this my whole life, than an elementary educator. And I say that to my fellow high school educators. So thank you for listening to them when they said there's a little bit too much on their plate. And then my question is CKLA. I noticed that 2.8% positive feedback, but 3.6% kind of an opportunity that not enough writing. So I don't know if that's just something we're looking at, is how much writing our elementary kids are doing. I just noticed those low percentages.
It's interesting. I wish I should have, in retrospect, shown you the pie charts from the beginning when we were first starting to gather all this information. CKLA actually does have quite a bit of writing, so those numbers have kind of slowly changed as we talk more and more. It's also a slow to go fast kind of a program where we start out very slow. There may not be a heavy amount of writing, and then it picks up pace as we go through. And then the other thing that's difficult is knowing which grade, because kinder students don't spend a lot of time writing at the beginning. And then they pick up speed once they get letter formation and pencil grip and all of those things under control. So yeah, it's a great program.
I don't have any questions, but just want to say job well done with the presentation, with the information. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And, you know, honestly, really, really wise on not going crazy fast with that social studies implementation. I've been working with the secondary, just going to their meetings, and it's a lot. I mean, it's a lot. And so I think it's very wise to not put that on top of everyone, on top of everything else right now.
yes.
So thank you for that. And then Dr. Cleveland.
Yeah, I do have a few things.
I went through everyone. You're good.
Just Did you get a chance to ask yours already? Okay, I wanted to be sure. Just a couple of quick comments. Nothing that we don't already know, but we did everything we could during the pandemic. In elementary, we brought K through 3 back, kept them through the whole pandemic. We couldn't keep more because of social distancing requirements. I don't know where we would have been if we didn't do those things, but the bottom line is that our kids are behind. And so we've got a lot of catching up to do. And I think that's something that everybody is very aware of and working very hard. There's that push and pull between the need for professional development and the ability to keep your sanity because there's so much on the plate. But we did, Beth sent out a survey. Teachers are often kill you on professional development if you don't do a good job. And what came back was very positive. We got a lot of very positive feedback on it. And so what we do here is make it reasonable and plenty of time to do it. But the quality of what they were getting, the feedback was very good. So I would want you to know that. The instructional materials, and that's always a challenge. You need to give our staff the very best materials, best tools to do the job. We were pretty tight this year. We didn't get enough money for our instructional materials. The board stepped up and found the money, which was unfortunate that you had to do that, but did. We're really gratified to see in the new budget, there's a significant increase in instructional materials dollars. So hopefully next year we won't have to subsidize out of the operational budget to be able to buy the materials that we need. I want to emphasize just a couple of things that were said. And I don't know if you caught it, but you mentioned in your PowerPoint, all teachers, you're working with all teachers. So this is the first time it's really been an effort to meet with every single teacher rather than train the trainer model or some of the others. And I've heard such positive feedback because everybody would like to be part of that, instead of waiting for 2 or 3 years to get it or depending on someone else to get it to you. We hired a lot of new people this year, a lot of new people. The new teacher induction, we've heard nothing but praise for. Bringing people in, helping them understand the Rio Rancho way, the way we do things so they can be successful. And the bottom line is we want them to stay. We've got them in here. Now, what can we do to retain them and make them feel good about the experience they have? And so the work that's been done, both elementary and secondary, to keep those people supported during this year, I think will pay off for us a lot. The two biggest issues, and I mean, it just, that we're having conversations with Joy, with Todd, with it. There are two things that we have got to step up and do better on. And I'll tell you, the staff is working hard to make that a reality. One is engagement, and you saw that in the materials. I would really encourage, if you didn't have a chance to look at those pie charts, that you look at them because they are a wealth of information about where we are in terms of curriculum instruction and our district. So, the engagement. I mean, we just hear it over and over and over again. The problem is this is the most difficult time we've ever had in getting students to engage with us. And I don't know, there's no easy answers, but we keep working through that process. The second that seems to be just running parallel to it is rigor. And a concern that what we've been asking of students is declined because of COVID. And now getting it back up to what we've always been known for in this district, high student performance and high rigor in our classes, that's got to be established again. And I almost feel like we were enablers during COVID, but what else could we do? I mean, we were trying to keep kids connected to us in any way that we could. So rigor, and certainly rigor and engagement. A third that we've had some conversations about, and I know Todd's just done something, to ask teachers about grading, but that whole assessment piece, does assessment need to change again based on what we've been through and some of the bad habits that students may have picked up, or has it just changed in the sense of students needing more structure again? Because it's just, they've been through such a difficult time. And then the last is, that continuing struggle with the state to recognize, value, and pay for professional development. And our teachers, need that support. They deserve that support. And I don't know how much more you can take away from them right now and just the day-to-day job they have to do. So how do we manage to do that professional development? In our opinion, states should pay more for that and should give them some other options. But anyway, thank you for a wonderful report. And, teaching and learning is what we're all about. It's our number one business. And the need to really kind of create a sense of urgency right now about we've got to pick this up again and get moving, because we don't want to not maintain those standards that we have been noted for for many, many years. And right now we're not quite there. And it's something that we're trying to reestablish. That being said, I think we're a whole lot better off. Talking to many of my colleagues, we're a whole lot better off than many other districts because these things were done during the pandemic. And I just want to thank you and all of the staff for the really good job they're doing for our kids. And know that's been a very challenging year. And people I've known a long time, master teachers, some of you know. So first time I've ever heard them say, I don't know what to do. Everything that's worked in the past doesn't seem to work right now. And so, it's just like one said to me, it's like we're all first year teachers all over again because we're playing with a different set of rules. We're dealing with more social emotional issues. We're dealing with just so many different things. So thank you for a great report. And I really appreciate your work on the report.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Well, it's funny, today I took a moment to stop and speak with the assistant in their office. She used to work at my children's elementary school, and I didn't realize she had come to this office. And I said, so how is it? And she said, well, it's really quiet because everyone is always out at the schools. They want to be in the schools and they are trying to help teachers. And so I just thought that was actually the best comment that I could hear, that it was quiet, because everyone's out at the schools and trying to do those things. So thank you for all you do. Thank you. Okay. Thank you. I have now, I think, thought out a little bit and then even melted a little. I think we're
it's been the North Pole, or it's been,
I know. I don't know if everyone else experiences up here. We have the air coming right down on us, so it's freezing or very warm. So anyway. Yeah, it is good. Thank you. It's appreciated.
It's good to know it works so that we paid our bills, right?
That's true.
So
it's true. For our next item, we'll move to approve the consent agenda. Are there any?
Madam President, I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda.
Okay.
Board Member Jeff Morgan, a second.
Okay. We have a motion by Gary Tripp and a second by Jeff Morgan. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Sorry. Thank you. That motion carries 5-0. Thank you. Okay, moving into our business portion, we'll start with a report. The Rio Rancho Public Schools Board of Education met in executive session following its regular board meeting on Monday, October 24th, 2022, to discuss pending litigation as permitted under Section 10-15-1H7 of the New Mexico Open Meetings Act. The matters discussed in the closed meeting were limited to those indicated in the 10/24/2022 notice of closed executive session. And we'll move to item C, which is to consider the approval of award of RFP 2023-002-FAC CTE Automotive Building Design Services. Michael Madrid, our purchasing director, and also Melanie Archibek, our executive director of facilities, will present.
Thank you, Board President Galbraith, members of the board, Superintendent Dr. Cleveland. The request for you this afternoon is a recommendation to approve award to the highest ranked offer. It's SMPC Architects Incorporated. In reference to the procurement that was referenced, we received 7 responses, all qualified architectural firms, all of them based out of Albuquerque. The firms that submitted a response include Buffalo Design Architects, Decker Paris Sabatini, Sam Sterling Architecture, SMPC Architects, Studio Southwest Architects, Vigil and Associate Architectural Group, Wilson and Company. As is typical, we look at the responses that the district receives. We go through the information, ensure that they are compliant and they're responsive and they are eligible for consideration. for evaluation by the evaluation committee. All 7 firms met the requirements and were reviewed by the evaluation committee. We ranked the firms, and we took the top 3 firms and conducted interviews. On October the 24th, interviews were conducted with Decker Paris Sabatini, SMPC Architects, and Vigil and Associates Architectural Group. We established a list of questions that we distribute to the firms. We give them a chance to prepare a presentation to the evaluation committee, and we also ask a spontaneous question on how they would address a unique situation. And that scoring for the interviews was added to the initial scores attached to the matrix that I provided you. To the memo, excuse me, is the scoring matrix. And it includes, at least for those top 3 firms, the scores that they received for the interview portion of it. Recommendation, once again, redirect you back to the requested action is for approval of award to SMPC Architects Incorporated as the highest ranked offer.
Thank you so much. Do we have any questions? Noreen, Scott, any questions on this RFP?
No, I don't have any questions.
Okay. Any questions from?
I have a question. I thought after our workshop that this was to make a recommendation for C&M to take this RFP. Is that correct, that they're going to be taking on? I see Mike running, sorry.
Yes, thank you. Madam President, Dr. Cleveland, members of the school board, I'm glad you were listening. So that was the plan. And after Lauren and C&M legal counsel reviewed it, they thought that the better course of action would be for our board to approve it. They could work out the details in the contract, and then C&M can turn around and approve it, and the contract can be run through C&M.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Other questions on Gear Trip or? No. Okay.
I can make a motion to approve award of RFP 2023-002-FAC CTE Automotive Building to SMPC Architects Incorporated as the highest ranked offer.
Board Member Jeff Morgan, I second.
Okay, thank you. So we have a motion by Jessica Tyler and a second by Jeff Morgan. Kim, can you take a roll call vote for us, please?
Sorry. Vice President Morgan.
Yes.
Secretary Scott.
Yes.
Board Member Tripp.
Yes.
Board Member Tyler.
Yes.
President Galbraith.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Cleveland, did you have anything on that before we move into the next one? Okay. Okay. For our next item, item D, consider the approval of award of RFP 2023-008-FAC Design Services, Independence High School and Rio Rancho Cyber Academy. Michael Madrid, our purchasing director, once again will present.
Board President Galbraith, members of the board, Superintendent Dr. Cleveland, a very similar procurement process to the one we just discussed. It is for architectural design services. The district received a total of 7 responses to the solicitation. All firms are listed out of Albuquerque. All qualified firms. The firms that provided a response are Buffalo Design Architects, Decker Paris Sabatini, Sam Sterling Architects, Studio Southwest Architects, Vigil and Associates, and Wilson and Company. All the firms were. I apologize. I'm looking at the wrong board memo. Let me go back to this. Apologize. The recommendation still is once again for the award to SMPC Architects Incorporated as the highest ranked offer. We received a total of 6 responses to this solicitation. The firms that provided a response are Decker Paris Sabatini, FBT Architects, John Anderson Architecture, Sam Sterling Architecture, SMPC Architects, Studio Southwest. All the firms are out of Albuquerque, all very qualified firms. As is typical, we evaluate the proposals for responsiveness. All firms met the mandatory requirements as identified in the RFP. The evaluation committee scored the 6 responses. We ranked the 6 responses, and we took the top 3 firms and conducted interviews. On October the 25th, interviews were conducted with Decker Paris Sabatini, SMPC Architects, and Studio Southwest. Questions were sent out to the different firms for their presentation to the district. And we asked an additional spontaneous question addressing a unique scenario and asked how would they address that scenario. The scores from the interview were added to the initial scores. The scoring matrix is attached to this board memo, and recommendation is for the highest ranked offer, SMPC Architects.
Okay, thank you. Jessica Tyler, any questions or comments? Noreen's, oh, go ahead, Gary.
Did the RFP state what size of school we're designing?
It does.
Does the population have a number on it?
Great question, Board Member Tripp. So the architectural design services is based on what's called a MAC, which is the maximum allowable construction cost. And from that, it tells the architectural firms not only what is the cost of the contract, but then within the pricing matrix, we identify the complexity of the project. And based on the complexity of the project, it tells them what percentage of that MAC that their compensation is going to be issued for. We also, within the questions, identified an opportunity for they express how would they design the facility based on the curriculum needs of the district. How do they feel that they could address those needs based on the design component? How is the information and the infrastructure going to kind of tie together? How are they going to put those pieces together? I think we did a good job expressing the curriculum side of it and give them a chance to express how they thought their design could really address those curriculum needs. And the scoring was based off of that.
So we gave them our curriculum, and like the two schools we have now, they don't, let's say they don't have a cafeteria, they don't have a gymnasium. I don't think they have a science lab. So I'm just wondering, I'm trying to get in my head what we're approving. I know like a theory design based on the curriculums they have now, or?
Melanie can explain it better than I can, but there's going to be a needs assessment that these guys will go through with the district. They'll sit down with the district, they'll determine what the needs are for the district, and with that, they'll initiate the design. Melanie, you want to chime in?
Yes, good evening. So they were given a scope of work that included the population that we wanted, the enrollment that we wanted to capture, as well as square footage. So we're basically going double with the current occupancies that we have at both schools.
We have long waiting lists at at both of those buildings right now. And I think that's a really sad situation. We have a lot of students who really want access to those programs and we can't provide it. So I was going to say it would greatly increase the ability for students to go who wanted to attend either of those two campuses. I have a question.
Do either one of the facilities have science labs right now?
It's a makeshift.
Yeah.
Makeshift, right?
Yeah.
So we just doubled it.
We have one at Cyber. We do have a small lab there. And Independence also has a lab, but it's not comparable to the labs of the other schools at all.
And are we looking at a building that's all one, or are these two separate campuses for this one? Just,
I think that will still be defined as we start
Okay.
gathering all the information.
Okay. I do have one more question too. Are we designing specific for that piece of property that we want, or is this something that we need to come back and discuss a little bit more, that perhaps we want to put this in a different location than what was?
You need to come back. The board has expressed a desire to talk about that. And so we need to do that. I think, we look at the advanced planning. Last year, the board said, please don't do a board meeting on the Monday after Thanksgiving. It created a hardship, and it's also real hard for staff. So what we might be looking at is a special board meeting, maybe on Wednesday or Thursday of that week, so we can have an opportunity to discuss the pros and cons of that, and also CNM's comment about looking toward expansion for CTE. So we would perhaps propose a meeting that Wednesday or Thursday after Thanksgiving to discuss this. But yes, it would have to be site specific.
Okay. And then Jeff Morgan, did you have questions or comments?
No,
I do have
Okay.
a question.
Okay, go ahead, Dr.
Well,
Cleveland.
You know, we're giving all three of these projects to one firm. Are we sure they have the capacity to do all three projects? And that's something we've never done before. We've never given one firm three jobs at one time. And I have a little concern about it. I'm not opposed to it at all, but I have some concern about it. I just want to be sure they have the capacity to do all three.
That's actually one of the evaluation factors that we look at. I believe they do have the capacity for it, and we didn't give it to them. They actually went through the same process that all of the rest did.
Okay, thank you so much.
Any other further questions or comments from anyone? Okay. Motion.
This is Board Member Jeff Morgan. I make a motion for consider approval of award to SMPC Architects Incorporated of RFP 2023-008 FAC Design Services for Independence High School and Rio Rancho Cyber Academy.
Ooh, there was one other thing I should say before they vote.
Okay. Go ahead.
For
a second.
I want to be sure, absolutely sure, that the board understands this, because it's really important. We have traditionally not designed buildings before the public has voted on those bond issues. The reason that there was discussion about doing it this way was because if you wait until you pass the bond and then you start the design process, it's going to push the ability to access expansion for those programs back about 1 or 2 years, probably. If we get started on the design before, but there's a risk there, and I want the board to be sure you understand what that risk is. If it didn't pass, we've never had one not pass, so I'm counting on this one passing. It still wouldn't be lost, because what we would do is we'd wait and we'd go out again. We'd go on it again. But I want you to know this is different than what we've ever done before. And there is a small element there of risk. But in exchange for that risk, we have an opportunity to get improved facilities for those two campuses so much earlier than we will if we wait. So I just want to be absolutely sure the board understands what we're doing here and approves that.
All right, thank you. Thank
Thanks.
you for that explanation too. So we have a motion by Jeff Morgan. Do we have a second?
I'll second. Board Member Tyler will second.
Thank you. We have a second by Jessica Tyler. And Kim, can you take a roll call vote for us, please?
Vice President Morgan.
Yes.
Secretary Scott.
Yes.
Board Member Tripp.
No.
Board Member Tyler.
Yes.
President Galbraith.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-1.
Thank you. Put in my notes. Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay. And for our last item, and on that last one too, I do want to make sure that we do get together and really go over all the specifics of that RFP.
If you could give us an idea on that week, what day would be the best to set up a special workshop to do that, whether it be Wednesday or Thursday. We won't make you come back on a Monday, but let us know which of those days is the best for you.
Okay. Okay. Perhaps Kim, you could send out a text to everyone, just putting that out there, and that way we can make sure. Okay. So for our last item is item E, which is going to be our first reading of changes to policy 724, temporary, full-time, and part-time employees, substitutes, and volunteers. Mike Chavez, our Executive Director of Human Resources, will present, and I believe Lauren Hatch is on hand if we have any more questions.
Good evening, Madam President, Dr. Cleveland, members of the board. We present to you this evening Board Policy 724, and we have two small changes that we would like to propose in this first reading. The first change is to the number of hours for a full-time bus driver. We are changing that to 5.5 from 5. That is the number of hours that are guaranteed in the negotiated agreement for bus drivers. Therefore, we're simply matching those numbers in the board policy. The second change, and Mr. Baker may come up in a moment and speak a little bit more to this, but it is a change that we are making And we are making this change in order to support the Department of Student Transportation in their attempt to cover open routes during the week. So there are quite a number of open routes that happen during the week because we do have bus drivers who call in sick during the week. And that creates a bit of a problem for the Student Transportation Department because then, of course, those routes are left open. The Student Transportation Department has positions called standby drivers. And right now, we have allocated 5 standby drivers to the department. However, Lynn Carl has only been able to fill actually 2 of those positions to date. We are brainstorming every which way we can at all times for the transportation department to see how we can best fill all of our bus driver positions. And we are proposing that we change the minimum number of hours to an average of 3.5 hours per day for these standby drivers in order to perhaps see if we can entice some people to work maybe an AM or a PM shift as opposed to perhaps a full day. And I'll see if is there anything you would like to add, Mr. Baker?
Madam President, Dr. Cleveland, members of the school board, I think Mike covered it pretty well. Our focus is try to attract additional applicants, and we've had a lot of difficulty doing that. Although we are pretty close to our allocations on bus drivers, we do lack standby drivers. So the standby drivers, essentially, they come in, and if somebody calls in sick, I shouldn't say if somebody calls in sick, when somebody calls in sick, that we have a group of people that could cover their route, and this way the students aren't late. Otherwise, what would have to happen is another bus driver would have to do their route, and then they would have to cover the subsequent route. That means the subsequent route, all those students are late. So we're trying to develop a group of standby drivers, and we're hoping that some folks would be willing to come part-time. They obviously they don't want to come full-time because we've already tapped into that resource. So we're hoping by enticing them with our benefits and that they could work part-time, and we do attract a number of retirees also. And if they do take Social Security at for example, at 62, they have a salary cap. And by working part-time, they won't reach that salary cap. So there's some advantages with working part-time, with getting benefits. They won't go over the Social Security, for example. So that's kind of what, our strategy is to tap into that pool of resources in order to get more standby drivers. And this way the students won't be late to school.
Thank you. And I see, did you want to add something, Lynn? Yeah, come on up.
I just wanted to add that we're still in need of 3 drivers. We've lost a few lately, daycare issues or, other issues going on. We still need 3 standbys. For every route that we do not have a driver for, it takes 3 to 4 buses to cover that one route. Because remember, they have like 4 schools, and obviously a bus can't do double routes on all those schools. So it takes 4 buses to cover one route when people are out. Last week and the week before, we had 16 and 17 drivers out every day. And so what that takes to try and cover that. And so particularly for a standby position, it is easy to have them cover an AM or a PM because they're running all kinds of different routes every day anyway. They're just covering what is available. On our regular routes, it's a little trickier only because of student management. Each driver does something different, but it can still happen. And if we can get them, we'll take them.
Okay.
And I want to make something clear to the board, please. Although you look at this and you say 3.5 hours per day, it's an AM or a PM, and you consider it sort of a part-time position. In reality, if you look at the board policy, what we're being very clear about is that we are putting this language that it's an average of 3.5 hours per day into as a full-time equivalency. So therefore, even though they might work an AM or a PM shift, and we're reducing this, saying that 3.5 hours is the amount that they will be allowed to work, we're still considering them to be a full-time employee, which makes them eligible for benefits. And so that's one of the advantages that one of these employees would have. So in reality, even though in most people's minds this would be kind of like part-time work, we're not necessarily considering it a part-time position. We're considering it still a full-time position. But Lynn is looking at this as she could work this into her schedule, that she might be able to work with folks that are more interested in an AM shift versus working in the afternoon, or vice versa.
Okay, thank you. Jessica Tyler, questions?
Yeah, so I know that the 5.5 hours is negotiated in the CBA. So what does this do? Because the policy defines a full-time employee. The contract defines that for that portion of it, and then we're making a separate definition. So has the
Right.
teacher?
So we are working simultaneously with RRSEU, and we have already spoken with the union president and presented this to the union president and her board, and she has agreed that this is a necessity, as it were, and something that they're willing to work with. And so we would be also completing an MOU that would be signed by Dr. Cleveland and the union president to add this language to the current contract, allowing standby drivers to work the 3.5 hours.
Okay. Yeah, I would just ask that you bring forth that MOU at the same time we have the second reading, so that we have
Right.
it there.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you. Gary Tripp, any questions? And Jeff Morgan. Noreen Scott, do you have any questions or comments? And Dr. Cleveland, did you have anything?
Yeah,
to
I
say?
really wish we weren't
I
having
do not have any questions at this time.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, go ahead.
really wish we weren't having to do it. But I think everyone, including the unions, we've got to have drivers. It's still, we've got to do whatever it takes to get more drivers. And if this is the way to go about doing it, then it's probably, as you said, just a necessity to get it done. So yes, I think anything we can do to get more drivers.
Okay.
And just one final comment for the board. I am also working with Beth Pendergrass on our advertising campaign. And this would be something we would add to that advertising campaign through KRQE to try to entice or to attract some more drivers in this area. So that is something we would add.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Anything on those business items? I just hope I didn't cut anyone off on anything. Okay. All right. Great. And we will move to advanced planning. Okay. So for our advanced planning, we have November 20th. I can't believe it's almost December. So November 21st through the 22nd will be elementary parent conferences. So there'll be no school for our elementary students. Both middle and high schools will be in session. The 23rd through the 25th will be Thanksgiving break. December 1st will be our bus rider count day. December 1st through the 3rd will be our NMSBA annual convention here in Albuquerque. So please let Kim know as soon as you can if you're able to attend that. Yes, Kim?
Deadline, I think, is tomorrow. So
Okay.
if you're going, raise your hand or put your little thumbs up or something.
So I am planning to attend. The only problem, I will only be able to attend on Saturday, but I would like to attend those classes. But I will be out of town on another work conference. So Gary too. Okay. And Jessica. Okay. Okay, good.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. And Noreen, I don't know if you heard that. Are you able to go to the annual convention in Albuquerque 1st through the 3rd?
I was just texting Kim. Yes, I'm going to attend.
Perfect. All right. Thank you. Okay. All right. So then December 12th will be our next regular board meeting. Of course, as we spoke earlier, we will probably have a special meeting before that board meeting. So be aware of that. And then December 19th through the 20th is going to be final exams. The 21st will be a half day of classes for students and a test makeup day for our secondary students, and also a staff development day. And then the 22nd through the January 4th will be our winter break. January 5th will be a staff and service day. And then the 6th classes will resume for all of our students. Yes.
Madam President, if I may, somebody uncovered a slight error here.
Okay.
On the 22nd, that will be a half day for secondary students and a half day professional development. So the 21st is a full day for secondary, and it's a half day on the 22nd.
Okay. All right.
So I just wanted to clarify that on the record.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. And with that, Gus, please.
I got one thing, and I hope I'm not out of order here. Mr. Carver, can you come forward, please? Thank you. You know, one of my wife and my son had given me a couple of personal developments, and one of those was to acknowledge people when I'm having conversation with them for the work they've done. And when I ask you a question, I didn't give you credit for your presentation, so I want to apologize for that. And another one of my personal developments from my wife and my son was to not always come out with the question, be clear about it. And I was not clear with my question, so I want to apologize to you for that as well.
Yes, sir, but I appreciate it.
But it's a personal development of mine, and I didn't do that, and I want to share that with you. Thank you so much. Appreciate
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Well, with that, our meeting for tonight is adjourned. So thank you,
We
everyone.
still have food back there. I think.
Yes,
You
I'm
want to grab something before you go.
go eat dinner.
So Kim, we do have on our schedule